Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today I am joined by Richie Bradshaw, the host of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, recurring guest, and we're going to be talking about this upcoming season for the Arizona State Sun Devils, and then towards the end of this, we're going to be talking about who are the best coaches in the Big 12. But first, we're going to talk about Arizona State. So obviously, first year, 2023 under Kenny Dillingham, 3-9. Kind of everything that could go wrong did go wrong for Arizona State. A lot of offensive line issues, a lot of quarterback turnover, injuries. What positive things are you looking forward to build on off of last year, where there was some bright spots, beat UCLA, beat Washington State towards the end of the year? So what are the positive things you're looking forward to this year?
The biggest thing that you're looking for is to see this team that was in some dogfights last year be able to finish those games. I think it's easy to forget that they had Washington, the runner-up to the national championship game, on the ropes, and they could have won that game if a few things went in their favor, which, of course, we can all say that about every game. But you're in a dogfight with Washington. You could have beat Cal. You could have beat Colorado. And at the very beginning of the year, before Oklahoma State knew who they were, it was kind of a decent game. But what you're looking forward to is that ASU can take those games that are close games and learn how to win, learn how to close those games out and turn those one possession losses into wins. Like ASU very easily could have been 7-5 last year, but they're 3-9 for a reason. They're 3-9 because they can't finish games. We can talk about injuries, we can talk about bad play, all that stuff. But as Kenny Dillingham will tell you, it's about establishing a culture. And part of establishing a culture is being able to pull out tight situations and stuff like that. So what you want to see from ASU this year is progress there. You can't expect them to win every game. If they're in another dogfight with Oklahoma State this year because you got to go to Stillwater, we shouldn't be anticipating that ASU is going to win that game no matter what. It is a little later in the year, too. What you need to see, again, just to feed a fed horse with this conversation, is you want ASU to show you that they are capable of winning the tight games. That was the difference between last year's team and hopefully this year's team. You're also hoping, for a healthier roster. ASU was just absolutely decimated by injuries last year. The offensive line, like you pointed out, was especially one of the biggest weak points of the team. Injuries are basically impossible to predict. You're hoping that they can get a little more luck this year. It's a talented roster. I'm not ready to crown them as Big 12 contenders or anything like that. But I do believe that ASU is going to be closer to a 6-win team than they are a 3-win team this year.
Injuries are a thing that you should be able to overcome as a team, but sometimes it gets to a point, and you guys got to this last year. Arizona State, at one point, you guys had 8 offensive linemen out in a particular week, and it also seemed like it was a revolving door at quarterback with injuries. You guys had Drew Pine, you had the Jaden Rashada experience, you had your guy Borgo, and I'm kind of looking at the quarterback position this year at Arizona State, and I'm looking at Leave It, I'm looking at Jeff Sims, Bourguet's back. Who right now is the front runner in the clubhouse right now to be the quarterback for you guys?
It's definitely Sam Levitt. He comes over the spring, and Sam Levitt was brought in because he's a talented quarterback, but Kenny Dillingham said at the end of the season, hey, during exit interviews, we told Trenton, we told Jaden that we're going to bring in competition through the transfer portal. They bring him in, and lo and behold, he beats everybody out for QB1 in the spring. Jaden Rashada, uncoincidentally, enters the transfer portal right after that. He's coming into fall. He's picking up where he left off. He still looks good. I'm not saying that he's absolutely elite or he's ready to dominate, but he does look like where he should be for a redshirt freshman after spending some time at Michigan State last year. They have some competition here to be able to push him. I've heard very good things about Jeff Sims, which we all should know to take with a grain of salt. Trenton Bourguet is still going to be able to push him. They've got some walk-on players. Navi Bruzon is the biggest name as one of the best quarterbacks in Arizona high school football history. They have the competition to push Sam Levitt, and you're hoping that he's able to continue to build that upon himself and turn into a quality starter for ASU. The bar has never been lower for what you're looking at. 8 touchdowns to, I think, 15 interceptions last year from 4 quarterbacks and 6 players who attempted a pass last year. You just need Sam Levitt to be at least right at 1 touchdown to 1 interception, someone who can lead the offense well enough. He's got a running back room that is more than capable of handling the offense's workload. So you just need Sam Levitt to, at worst, be a game manager. And again, the bar is very low. So you're just hoping that he's better than what you had last year and can show some glimpses as a redshirt freshman to give you even more hope for the future, because ideally he can be a starter for 4 years for you.
If you guys do have to rely on that deep running back room, you do have the wild scat. You have Cameron Scatabo, excuse me, who was a transfer from Sacramento State, and he's kind of following into a lineage of like very exciting Arizona State like players. You guys had Ayuk, you had N'Keal Harry, Jaden Daniels at one point. You guys had. He's got to be like falling in right into that lineage, and he's got to be like probably one of the bright spots of this team, even if you guys are still kind of in a rebuilding process in year 2.
Yes, and the thing with Cam is his ability to contribute in more ways than one. He is a very, very quality receiver. He is a very good runner between the tackles. He's someone that can get into the end zone. If you want to get tricky with him, he can throw the ball on trick plays. I love that you bring up the scat package, because you can allow him to do a little bit of everything when he can take off with the ball, he can throw the ball decently. He can do pooch punts if you're trying to throw the opposing team just off balance. Having a guy like Cameron Scatabo to do a little bit of everything for your offense is going to be the biggest boon that you could possibly have for your team. As long as he is out there and he is healthy, your offense is going to be potent, and they're going to have a weapon that could make a big play at any given time.
More so in college football than like the NFL. We have actually seen like running backs that have NFL caliber potential kind of buoy a team and like raise their expectations or raise their floor. We saw this a few years ago with Kenneth Walker at Michigan State. I think that was a great example of that. I saw it at my school a few times with Dave Montgomery, guys like Brees Hall. So Cameron Scatabo can definitely do that for you guys. I want to point attention to a tweet that I think I saw. Maybe it had to be like maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe when you were at Big 12 Media Days, and you were looking at a preseason Big 12 poll in Arizona State. I can't remember where they were in that. They might have been like 14th or something like that. And I believe
They
you
were
quote
last.
tweeted that and said, I think that Arizona State will finish in the top half of the Big 12. So what is the biggest reason that you think that you guys will kind of defy the odds and really surprise some teams this year?
As long as they're able to win the close games, they're going to be able to be closer to the top half than they are the bottom half. This is a team that's also more talented. You have potentially better quarterback play. You've got a great running back room. Now, you have some obstacles because you're having to replace Elijah Badger at receiver and Jalen Conyers at tight end. You've got quality weapons, but you should be a run-heavy team. Defensively, you look deeper, and you're replacing big name players. Again, you basically lost your entire secondary from last year, including Jordan Clark, who will be playing on Sundays one day. He is at Notre Dame now. And BJ Green, who was your best pass rusher the last 3 years. He is at Colorado now. But you got some very good players to replace those guys. Replacing Jordan Clark is Cole Martin, a consensus 4-star kid, a former Basha High School player out in Arizona. So he's a hometown hero. They're hoping that he can be plugged in and be a great nickel for you. One of the guys I am the biggest on this year is pass rusher Clayton Smith, a former 5-star recruit. Someone who, when he was healthy last year, I think he got taken off the field like 2 or 3 different times. Just everyone was banged up last year. He was one of them. If he's healthy, he's dynamite. He's going to be phenomenal this year. They've got players on the defensive side of the football, and you've got one of the most underrated defensive coordinators in college football with Brian Ward, who's able to get the most out of what he has. You have talent. At worst, you're as good as you were last year, which was a unit that was a lot better than the box score will show you, because the offense was so porous. that the defense was left on the field so much, and it led to more yards allowed and a defense that was tired. If the offense can pick up its end of the stick, then you're going to have a defense that is once again going to be very quality at worst, and that matches together to give you a quality team. The problem is you have a really difficult schedule this year. You're facing what, in my opinion, is the five best teams in the Big 12 with no order of Utah, Kansas, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and Arizona. It's a very difficult stretch for you, but you have a winnable non-conference schedule with Wyoming, Mississippi State, Texas State. That's potentially 3 wins right there. Now you just need to find 3 more wins in the rest of the schedule. And you've got Cincinnati, you've got Texas Tech, which is a difficult game, but you could win it. You got BYU, you got UCF. There is potential for ASU to get some sneaky wins here, even if they don't get the big marquee wins against those top 5 teams, in my opinion.
Definitely. I also think too there are some teams this year when we were talking about when you're looking at all these schedules and all these Power Four schools or all these Power Four conferences where we have like 16, 17, 18 team conferences, there's just going to be some schedules that you're like, well, like, wait a minute, why is Rutgers win totals like projected to be like 8.5 or something like that? It's a
Right.
lot of it's like schedule dependent. So even if you guys do have a lot of improvements this year, it might not necessarily show up too much on the wins and losses, but you definitely, I think you'll see it on the field, and maybe Arizona State will surprise some teams, play some teams a little bit closer than maybe people are expecting. You mentioned a few times about Kenny Dillingham changing the culture, and you're talking about finishing close games and winning in these close games. What is the biggest thing that you've seen over the last few years under Dillingham, moving away from the Herm Edwards era into the Kenny Dillingham era, where we are talking about changing a culture? Is it something about bringing in a different type of guy? Is it something about a different kind of training thing? Is it something about just becoming smarter football players? What is it that he is doing that you think is so significant so far?
The biggest thing is you're creating accountability for these guys. During Herm Edwards, he was a very relaxed coach, but not in a good way. He wasn't even a player's coach. He was someone that ran a really loose program and did not have that accountability. Kenny Dillingham is coming in, and there's a few things they're building off of. The biggest one was these players, every single time you would get a post game interview, they would say the same thing. We want to do our 111. They want to do their own job on their side of the football. You have guys that take care of their portion of what they're looking to do on defense, on offense, on special teams. You're going to have a unit that plays together and is just going to be more unified. That's the biggest difference right there, is having guys that understand, hey, we're only going to be as good as we play together, but it starts with me doing my job, me doing my 111. Having those standards is what's going to be the difference between the Kenny Dillingham era and the Herm Edwards era. Dillingham has also said this offseason that he is, quote unquote, raising the expectations, raising the bar. The minimum expectation is what he's actually saying. So last year, he understands, hey, this is a rebuilding program. We gotta understand we can't just shoot for the moon here. But now in year 2, well, we are going to be looking to be better than where were. Are we expecting national championship? Absolutely not. But you are hoping to be a better team than a 3-win program. You're hoping to get to 5 wins. You're hoping to get to 6 wins and go bowling. You just need to see that positive progression moving forward. It's setting the bar and just moving it accordingly, not asking these guys to instantly turn ASU back into a title contender like they were 10 years ago when you had back-to-back 10-win seasons and were just outside of the college football playoff. You need these guys to buy into the culture that he is putting out there. But the biggest portion of it is having that accountability for every single player. It doesn't matter if you're an offensive guard, if you're the number 1 receiver, if you're the 4th pass rusher on the team, or if you're the number 1 corner. Everybody has a job to do. You need to do your job. If we do that, we're going to have a better program together.
All right, what's your prediction? What's the record? What are you thinking right now?
I think you're going to see a team no worse than 5 wins I have been very vocal that they're going to go bowling this year. It's going to be about winning the games you're supposed to win and then finding a way to get a tough win. Now, right now, you play the five best teams or five of the best teams in the Big 12. I don't think you can expect them to win any of those games because you're still trying to rebuild. But you have toss up games. You can hopefully go 3-0 in non conference. You can hopefully beat BYU and Cincinnati, who are at least in the same tier that ASU is in right now. And then you're hoping for a coin flip like a UCF or Texas Tech. Finding a way to get some really key close wins is what's going to be the difference in this season. Like I said, I think you're closer to a 6-win team than you are a 3-win team. I'm going 6 on the dot. Your best case is 7. Your worst case is probably 4. You're better than you were last year, but can you close out the games? That's going to be the difference.
We'll see. We'll see. We got a lot of Big 12 teams that are looking to. Thank you for watching this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. If you liked what you saw here today, please hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Doing both of those things is the best thing you can do to support this show, and it costs you absolutely $0. If you want to watch me and Richie rank the Big 12 head coaches 1 through 16, you can go ahead and click the video link on your screen, or you can also go to Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts and listen to the audio version of this show to get the whole interview with Richie. We talked about the Big 12 coach rankings for about 45 minutes, and we ranked everyone 1 through 16. So if you think you enjoy that, please hit that link. Again, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you next time.